think when it comes to the current situation we're all experiencing, a form of governance we are very unhappy about, and we hope we can somehow get around, overcome, transcend, get beyond. It's super important, if you relate to astrology and to astrological cycles, to always keep the big picture in mind. Within that, you then look at all the various characters to get clues, to get further information. But the big picture is super important, and this is where you've heard me say probably many times in recent years, this goes back to the Biden administration, we're in years, not months, years, which reflect very difficult patterns. The Civil War of the 1860s, most specifically because of where the Neptune and Uranus cycles are. And you have to keep in mind that these cycles are very long, and so then they take a long time to go around, and so you see the planet, like say Uranus, comes back 84 years later. Neptune is 165 years. Huge cycles. So it's not the kind of thing that happens every day, or even every year, or even every decade. We're in those cycles. Indeed, Neptune is now where it was when the Civil War was being fought. And it was preceded by years of dissension. The Pisces years in the 1850s correspond to the Pisces years in the 2011 to basically now, when finally Neptune is moving into Aries. And so we have to go through it. It's just the way it is. That's how the cycles work. The Uranus, that's another element which, on the positive side, is actually really good because it's a planet of renewal, and it is not a planet that is fond of fascism and monarchic top-down rule. That's more of a Pluto thing, which unfortunately is part of this current cycle because Pluto is just too close to the American Pluto position, the Pluto return, and so therefore we're dealing with it on this level. But it will pass. It'll move forward further into Aquarius, a sign that is not friendly to this kind of action, and you can do your research, and you will see that going back the last 2,000 years, Pluto cycles in Aquarius do not benefit monarchic, fascistic style rulership. The problem is they are issues that are not resolved in months, they take years. And so from this vantage point, even though I hope that it can be resolved sooner than the next election, I'm preparing myself for the possibility that that's it, that's what we have. We have to work with the system that we live in. There are elections, we vote, we try to get the existing party out. And if you reply, well, that's the whole point, because these guys are going to try to stop us. I know, but I'm saying that there are plenty of astrological indicators that will deny them that objective. That's the key. Now, if we look at past patterns beyond saying, okay, Neptune and Uranus are where they were, therefore they mirror current conditions, it's very interesting to notice that in the 1850s, specifically it was 1854 when the Republican Party was formed. That's very ironic because the Republican Party today is not at all like that Republican Party. That Republican Party was actually what saved the Republic because at the time the Democrats were the problem party and the Whigs were the opposite party. They were fighting among themselves, so the Republican Party is formed by disaffected Whigs, disaffected Democrats, and you get the Abe Lincoln Party that gets elected pretty soon because it's founded in 1854, and by the election of 1860, Lincoln is elected, and then he is the one that transacts the Civil War. And so you can see that this new party had a major effect pretty quickly. But the takeaway here is that a new party is formed at that time. And the question we have is, does this possibly reflect the situation right now with Elon Musk trying to form the America Party? And I've already said that Musk, I don't think, has the political chops to ever lead such a party, but he might fund it, he might be the catalyst. The point is, this thing that's in the air about some kind of new party. And from that vantage point, yes, this makes a lot of sense, because right now we're in the same zone. And this is what happens when Neptune is in its cycle, its 165-year cycle, on the other side of itself. Because if you think about what's happened with the Neptune energy in the American chart, the country is founded literally. It starts in 1776 with Neptune and Virgo, where it is in the natal chart. That's what a natal chart is. The conflict happens, Civil War, 1860s. It's Neptune in its 165-year cycle, moves down to the bottom of the chart, opposes itself. There's an opposition, there's a conflict. Because Uranus has a cycle that is approximately like half a Neptune cycle, when Neptune does that half turn, Uranus does a full turn. So then Uranus and Neptune are together at the time of the Civil War. Then fast forward 80 or so years, and you find yourself in the Second World War period, when Neptune returns to its original position. And so then, what happens? Even though there was some dissension and division in there, lots of Nazis walking the streets in the US at the time, lots of people who were trying to move America toward Hitler and the Nazis, that's not the way it turned out. What happened is the country came together to fight the Second World War against Hitler. It was victorious, and once again, now Neptune is back to where it started. And so that signifies the unity of the country against something, which is what happened at the foundation of the country. Now, we're back to the Civil War, and that Neptune went one more time, and it's opposite, hence the internal division. But Uranus going around by itself is sufficient to reflect world conditions changing, and so we see all kinds of indicators of that throughout the world, although admittedly a lot of it is caused by the American empire because it's the most powerful, but nevertheless, all of it is happening at the same time. So, the point is, though, that whenever you feel despair because you feel this is looking really bad, we're never going to get out of it, you have to realize that we've had prior periods that were really tough, and we got out of them. We did. In fact, if you were there, I'm pretty sure in both cases, well, not even both cases, all three cases, go back to the foundation of the country and the uncertainty that that signified, because it was a literal war against the occupying power, the British at the time, then the Civil War, and then the Second World War. All three periods would have been very tense, extremely challenging, I would say more so than now. This is difficult. It's a cold civil war that has to be resolved. It's difficult, but we can get through it. And to my mind, there are plenty indicators pointing to the next election, by way of the fact that Uranus is precisely returning then to its original degrees, returning to the American position of Uranus, which to me signifies freedom much more than it signifies enslavement, which, by the way, if you think about it, this period has so many echoes to the Civil War in that the conflict is essentially the same. Underneath all this talk, it's the racial issue, plain and simple. I won't outline it here any more than I've already said in prior videos. I'm sure you'll get what I'm talking about. That's what's really at play. And so then you can reply and say, well, how do you know that this time we'll get through it just like we did before? Because of the astrological cycles. But of course, that's what I'm tuned into. I'm hoping that you will tune into them as well, and that you will trust them to bring about the right outcome. So within that, I will of course talk about all the different players, the different things that are happening, but it's never going to be a smooth ride all the way to the final outcome. We have to expect that along the way there will be points when it's going to get quite tense, but keep your eye on the final outcome. That is what is really critical. And so to conclude, even though, as I've already said, there's no question that Elon Musk is a very, very imperfect vehicle for such talk as a third party to make a meaningful difference. But history has a way of arranging itself and bringing about good outcomes if we have the patience to wait it out. And the fact that he is now very adamantly opposed to his ex-ally, the Orange Man, I mean, it's pretty clear that he is really getting in his face. The attitude that he's showing in regard to trying to pin him to the Epstein scandal is about as harsh as it gets. And so the enemy of my enemy is my friend. You go along with whatever is there to help out the cause. And my sense would be that a third party, by and large, would be much more dangerous to the objectives of the GOP than to those of the Democrats. Time will tell, of course, but I think it's pretty good news, and it's certainly there in the astrological cycles as a distinct possibility.